everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is HauteLeMode, and today on HauteLeMode we are coming to you with the reviews of the shows from the fall 2022 Milan Fashion Week season. Now, with some of fashion's most established players like Prada to Fendi to Cavalli to Gucci, there's so much to see, and we haven't even talked about the debuts by Glenn Martens for Diesel, Mathieu Blasi for Bottega Veneta, or Serhat Isik and Benjamin Husby for Trussardi. So there's a lot to discuss. Let's get into it. Let's start with one of the more exciting moments of the week, which was the Diesel debut of Glenn Martens in the fashion show format. Now, yes, Martens of the much-loved brand Y Project and recent Jean-Paul Gaultier Haute Couture success showcased his first show as the creative director for the Italian denim house. Now, Diesel, for those not in the know, was founded by Renzo Rosso in 1978 when he acquired a significant share in the northern Italian denim manufacturer Moltex and changed the name to Diesel. Since then, it has captured the global denim market and has become synonymous with luxury jeans and controversial but press-generating ad campaigns. With Martens at the hem, his spring 2022 collection lookbook set the stage for the events that unfolded and only doubled down on a denim display in this fashion show format. The collection began with tattered denim jeans, which started at the waistband and fell to the top of the thighs, and the pieces were paired with either fitted jean jackets or simple denim bra tops. Now, excitement stemmed from miniskirts that seemed as if they had initially been denim belts, but produced to be skirts instead, as they had large silver frames and grommet holes which could allow the wearer to expand the sizes just by adjusting the prongs. Martens' asymmetrical and reconstructive design technique, many know from Y Project, materialized in the hook and eyelet tops that allowed a belt to stretch them then downward. This was seen in button-down form in spring 2022, and Martens obviously seems to want them to be synonymous with his tenure here at Diesel. Denim coats emerged, one a large blue trench, another a grayer shade that was coated in reflective material so it shone, and there was a little bit of Diesel logo denim that seemed to want to appeal to the monogram-prone clientele. Miniskirts in leathers that were either brand spanking new or patinaed in brown also felt daring but very on trend. The large D embossed into the skirts and other leather accessories throughout the collection were interesting, as they referenced the initial Diesel logo from 1978. Now, like most other luxury brands, it's not bad to circle back to vintage motifs or branding, as after 10 to 20 years, they can be reworked for a totally new audience, many who might not know what Diesel actually is, and which Martens here has done rather smartly. And while I don't speak about menswear usually, I couldn't ignore the large coats that resembled fur, but were actually sheer denim of some sort that more than likely, through abrasions to the surface, created a fur-like texture in both a faded and crisp blue. That's the thing. If it's a denim brand, use denim to your advantage in every which way. That's smart design. A trio of metallic knit sets, all quite short, had the Diesel D logo and created a shimmery flash in the midst of the collection. The orange and blue miniskirts were also adjustable in terms of how high the slit on their side went, because you had the hook and loop closures. And again, Martens is creating pieces that can be styled differently, which might appeal more to a younger customer base that needs to get a lot more bang for their buck. Sporty styles like motocross sets were given sleeker color palettes in navy blue or pink and gray, while windbreaker style coats were spiraled into mini skirts and crop tops in a way only Martens can make believable. And now I say, I don't know how it's possible, but I want one. I'd like to wear one. There was an almost corroding duo of skirts that felt like they were made up of old posters that were tattered from their long stay on post-no-bills walls. And maybe it was a reference to the scandalous Diesel ads of the past, but smartly Martens closed out the collection with two different types of denim fabric manipulations. The first, a dyed version of the sheer denim that masqueraded as fur. One version was a floor-length pink coat, but the denim was frayed, which created a tiered texture, but only the frayed threads were dyed pink, and the blue denim could still be seen underneath. A cropped greenish-yellow version followed, and because of the deepness of the color and dye, it felt a lot stronger than the pink version, only because of the concentration of the pigment. It's a smart way to riff off denim and incorporate a brand staple without it feeling like just denim. That is designing. Again, that is experimentation. That is excitement. And a pair of cargo boot jeans, which is another Martens staple silhouette, was paired with a shibori style heat manipulated top. Essentially, the heat manipulation style of shibori is the wrapping of items in a textile and then heating that textile so that it changes it from its usual flat sort of texture to something with a lot more of a texture created by the pieces underneath. Now, with stiffer denims, This probably is very difficult to do, but maybe Martens used a chambray, which is technically not a denim, but a denim look-alike to a degree, with a lighter weight and different weave that still enacts that denim effect. Now, a few years ago, chambray was a trend that everybody was wearing and was easily made to look like denim without the need to break it in. So Martens could easily utilize the fabric as a way to make shibori pieces and make lighter versions of his work for future seasons. Overall, Diesel is back. It's exciting, and it's redefining its brand tropes while moving forward with its more modern approach, and I tip my hat to Glenn Martens. He knows exactly what he's doing. Next up, let's talk about Fendi. Kim Jones' Fendi took a far different approach than the past 2 seasons, which were highly commercial with an emphasis on tailoring and opaque fabrics. And listen, I have reverted my claims. Good seasons. Very solid. I think he knows what he's doing. Now, this season, he wanted to look at house codes and rework them, which, when compared to the Spring 2000 Fendi collection, one can see the sheer and diaphanous aesthetic of this collection. It's not really new, but it definitely taps into what the vibe of fashion currently is. You know what I mean? Like that Y2K, very miniskirt, sheer, body, yaddy. The collection opened with a sheer slip dress in 2 shades of pastels that were sort of panel styles, and then combined by seams in the middle, parallel to each other. And with a fur shawl placed over the model's shoulder, it's a very clear diversion from the incredibly wearable and commercial collections Jones has presented since he began at Fendi. Now, the sheer flowy sets also came through in pant sets, slip-style catsuits, and light little cardigans over dresses. These sheer pieces were then paired with suiting fabrics like houndstooth and plaid, or placed over top of central panels of the suiting fabric with sheer frills running down the front. I will say that when you look at the combination of these really light fabrics, it's definitely a reference to Karl Lagerfeld's Spring 2000 collection for the brand. It is very sheer, it is very flowy, but at the same time, Kim then takes his structured tailoring, his menswear, the thing that he really has honed in on for the past, 10 years, and sort of combines them together in a way that gives the Fendi customer the option to play on both. And structure also came in a tight bustier placed over a button-down crop top with tie in gray, and then was paired with a beige sheer skirt. Now, again, it's understandable to want to showcase this dichotomy of the tailoring hardness and the flowy sort of softness, but looks like these feel a little bit too on the nose for Kim. Abstract art prints were printed across sheer styles and knit into gloves as well, which was very smart, while the crop corset and button-down style appeared in a nice blue shirting fabric and was paired with a leather skirt with sheer flowy overlay. And again, that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? It's crisp, light, it's kind of business-centric, but it is. And there was a trio of looks that took houndstooth and plaid and mixed them together, which felt rather odd. The romper style with blue button-down underneath was certainly youthful, but felt a little bit dated, while jackets and skirt suits had belts attached with panels that only covered one side of the body. And I get the wanting to do something a little bit different with these sort of paneled belts, but I'm not sure that they were actually worth the trouble. I mean, listen, did they have little mini Fendi baguette bags hooked on them? Yes, but the shock of the micro bag trend has faded, and I'm just not sure if Jones got the memo, or can revive the trend by himself. Unless the bags come attached, in which case I say, go for it. Now, 2 very strong suits followed, one in a brick and the other in navy blue, and with their asymmetrical cuts that exposed the model's shirts underneath, it was suave yet frisky. Now, as we can see, there are a lot of these sheer pieces as I've described, and oftentimes they have these really curly sort of hems. Initial review of that Fendi Spring 2000 collection is actually mentioning sort of Halston, Studio 54, the 1970s, and a great designer that invented the lettuce hem in the 1970s was none other than Stephen Burrows, and so shout out to Stephen. And so it's nice to see that, there's that continuity of even that element sort of going on here. Now, there was this sheer lettuce hem style that continued this time, which was printed with stripes, while another paneled belt was attached to a denim cocktail dress and made a far stronger case for the style when done in the same fabric. But I want to go back to the lettuce hem style really quickly. For a short fashion history lesson, I just want to say that the Vogue review of the Spring 2000 Fendi collection mentions that Karl Lagerfeld was looking to Studio 54, which would then mean that he was looking to the 1970s, which then means the reference by Kim to Stephen Burrows, who was the designer who invented the lettuce hem in the 1960s and was going out to Studio 54 and hanging out in the 70s in New York, all sort of comes full circle here. And I think it's very smart. I think it's very fun. I think it's very chic. I think it's very sexy. Lettuce hem, Stephen Burrows, thank you very much. Now, leather styles then with paneled belts also arrived, and the leather cocktail dress is actually very sweet, and the corset with the panel and no shirt underneath makes more of a case for the style that is good. There were some more traditional tailoring fabric, mismatched styles, and a black abstract motif placed on a sheer style too. They weren't super exciting, but they were there. And the collection ended with some Fendi ovular logo chain prints that moved asymmetrically down the tops, skirts, pants, and dresses. We did see bags, printed with this sort of ovular Fendi chain motif for fall 2022 menswear from Fendi. So again, there's that continuity between the two brands, even though Silvia Venturini Fendi is doing the majority of the menswear from my understanding, and Kim Jones is doing the majority of the women's wear. There is that sort of connection between the two designers, which I do think is important to have. Sort of sticks with the whole Fendi history of family is very important to the brand. It's something that specifically struck into the LVMH, purchase of Fendi from my understanding. But it's also nice to see that there's that sort of working togetherness of these designers who both are incredible talents. And with a fur shawl wrapped dress closing it out for good, the collection, honestly, it was fine. Overall, Kim Jones was tapping into Karl Lagerfeld's Fendi archives, and it's a smart thing to do. But by doing it, coinciding with this Y2K trend that fashion has been following, makes it even smarter. Again, it showcases that he's not just doing commercial clothes for 40 and 50-year-old women. He's also making clothing that will be seen on the red carpet, might be seen on up-and-coming celebrities. I'll be honest, I'm unsure if this collection will sell like hotcakes, like normal, but a plethora of smart accessories definitely will, and that's the most important thing for Jones to cement within these first couple of collections, and he knows that. I won't expect much more of Jones, as it's just not his way to push boundaries to the umpteenth degree, so I think this experimental take is good, and I hope we see it expanded upon more. Now, next up is Gucci, and they're back on the normal Fashion Week calendar, and Gucci's Fall 2022 collection by Alessandro Michele was the first attempt to showcase the power of collaborative efforts on the runway with other well-known brands not in the luxury space. Gucci's collaboration with Adidas, the German sportswear giant second only to Nike, from what I know, followed the Gucci x The North Face collaboration, which released in a capsule format. While Gucci x Balenciaga did make an appearance on the runway last season, but maybe these non-luxury collabs are best left off of the runway, as this one felt rather heavy-handed on the Adidas branding and didn't gel well with Alessandro's more recent stylistic choices. The collection began with 3 styles that reflect different eras of Michele's time at Gucci. The first, a navy blue double-breasted suit, which coincides with his emphasis of tailoring. A faux fur coat with lace bodysuit tackles the sexual awakening the Gucci runway has been having in recent years, while the quirky and nerdy styling that we're seeing for this red leather skirt style, we've known since Michele's first collections and how omnipresent they are. I should also be quite clear that this collection was more of a menswear collection than women's wear, with, from what I could count, was made up of 69 menswear looks, or at least looks on male models, from an 84 look collection in total. And now, for the most part, I don't review menswear collections, and this one is really no different. I will say I do think some great looks in menswear existed. There was this magnificent chartreuse suede suit. There were a bunch of beautiful double-breasted suits for both men and women. There was a lot of faux shearling, whether it was trimmed in capes or in fur coats or just sort of collar trims, and a spectacular studded leather suit was just another good look in the menswear category. But we're really here to discuss the women's wear, so we're gonna continue with that. That was your menswear breakdown. Enjoy. A blue suede skirt captured that 1970s flair of Gucci and tapped into the red and blue stripes that were introduced during the decade as well. And you can see that on the monogram bag strap that we have going on the look. As for the lace top attached with its chevron lace detail at the neck, one wonders if it was a reference to maybe Adidas sports uniforms? The blue and white striped hat definitely is though, but I wonder if instead of the lace sleeves, the tiny strips of black lace couldn't have paid homage to the sportswear giant's signature stripes. The issue was squashed when a matching knit set emerged, as it was made with side and sleeve stripes that capture the brand's appeal while being done in a textile Adidas would probably never ever consider approaching. The quirkier the Adidas styles throughout this entire collection, the better Michele fared, it seemed, and this one was a goal for sure. A red gown with v-neck and long striped sleeves reference a Madonna-worn dress of a similar cut. The runway version's fit is phenomenal. It feels actually wearable and has that penchant for Michele's obscure fashion reference points. Another double-breasted monogram suit was suave, while a faux fur coat with wire bra and leather pencil skirt floundered. A plaid short suit was given the Adidas stripes on its shoulders and side seams of the pants, with a red latex turtleneck underneath. The riding boots with Adidas stripes, which nod to Gucci's alleged history of being horse saddle makers, perfectly tied together both brands' aesthetics, and the accessories here are probably far more important for the collaboration's success than the clothing on the runway at least would be. An ivory silk gown captured a Victorian era feeling with a longer take on the gigot sleeve, you know, the big puffy sleeves, but like gigot normally sort of stops here and then it kind of flows and gets like a little bit thinner. But here we got to like here, so longer take, that's why I say that. But it's details of black strips down the torso, a ruffled neck, an Adidas mountain and Gucci symbol along the banded waist that are trying to play on that collaboration. Again, I understand the need to do it, but I'm sure this won't be a commercial look sold in stores. So why not embroider it with some sort of gorgeous beads or threads? You know what I mean? Like make that opulence, you want everything kind of vibes. A latex turtleneck dress in cream is decorated with red stripes on its side, but the corset attached is uncomfortable and I'm not even wearing it. It's made up of Gucci monogram side panels and a blue front panel with white Adidas stripes. It just looks clunky, strange in an inexcusable way, even for Gucci, and like a sad take on Paolina Russo. I'm not saying Gucci has copied this ESM graduate by any means, I just think there's a lack of intrigue or originality in this execution of turning sportswear into corsetry. A green tulle gown with loofed sleeves and an asymmetrical high-low cut was actually rather lovely. Color was a perfect shade of Michele questionable, the draping recounts last season's silver screen sirens, and the way the train falls away just tied it all together beautifully. It should have been the finale look, but another corseted style, this time a black gown in velvet with Adidas stripes, finished the job off, but not quickly enough. The Adidas bride-to-be with veil attached was just strange and unfortunate to look at. And I don't want to say that, but that's just what it was. Not much else you can really say there. To be honest, these collaboration collections from any brand are usually best in capsule collection form. If Adidas pushed to be showcased on the runway, they should know better. But something tells me that this wasn't Michele's idea, and that's what makes it all the more disheartening to see. Collaborations are a part of luxury brands now, but that doesn't mean that every brand should be collaborated with in a runway capacity. Now, next up, let's also talk about Cavalli. Now, Fausto Puglisi had a bit of an uneasy first two collections for Cavalli, in my opinion, but this season, he smashed through to present a gorgeously gaudy array. Now, you might say my calling of Puglisi's collection as gaudy is an insult, but Cavalli is a brand that's always been a bit over the top, and in the context of the brand, I think that's not just okay, but I think that should be rather glorified. While at Chanel and Dior, subtlety has taken over, the customers of Cavalli have come to know and expect a sex appeal that is raw, natural, and almost animalistic. Speaking of animals, though, the collection of course touched on the usual leopard print, and in keeping with Puglisi's work, it was melded and meshed with fabrics like velvet, leather, and mohair. Harnesses were also in abundance, as Puglisi did explore them in pre-fall 2022, but they were reworked here in a much cleaner way. From the straps upholding a leopard catsuit to trimming a cocktail dress's torso, the styles felt less ripped out of a sex shop window and plunked on for dramatic effect. That I thank him for. The leather flowers attached also added a bit of whimsy. Although the rose is beautifully captivating, it is also just as unabashedly thorny. Not horny, thorny. Roberto Cavalli himself often alluded to the importance of nature as an inspiration for his work, and Puglisi is getting more comfortable playing into that while still being able to make styles that are very extroverted, very him. One skirt, if you can even call it that, was made up of a leather panel covered in leather roses and bound to the model's hips and thighs through harness sort of style straps, all while leaving an extensive amount of skin on display. Gay designers are often unafraid to bring BDSM elements into their works, and Fausto, like others before him, is able to make it feel less crass, not only because it's for Cavalli, but because his beautiful rose is also double, low-key as a sexual innuendo to the vagina, in my opinion. It's just the thing. Of course it's crass, but like, it's not like he's expecting everybody to wear it. BDSM elements has been brought into the world of fashion I would say for decades at this point. I mean, Versace, McQueen, Gaultier, like Galliano, like it's been done. It's not like this is some brand new thing. Oh my God. Here, I think Fausto actually makes it a lot less crass than it usually can be. He's doing a good job of innuendoing. His use of leather harness style tops that have printed chiffon attached like a rigged sort of skirt recreates the flowy and diaphanous gowns we've come to know in a far more naughty fashion without making it tasteless. His use of plaids mixed with florals was a bit blah, though, but it's worth giving him time to develop, as he might be able to take punk aesthetics and find a way to make them feel a little bit more modern, or at least Cavalli-esque. The embroidery this season has also become rather ravishing, from multiple cocktail dresses in gold that either had more conservative cutouts or were armor-like with BDSM qualities. It was very enjoyable to see that going on. One gown made up of what I would consider a Pornhub viewer's wet dream, if Pornhub viewers actually had like good taste, had a neck-to-waist harness that almost felt dog collar-like, and now I know that sounds bad. And in the context of like non-consensual denigration and misogyny, I understand that. I would also go as far as to say, as a gay man, so again, like very little understanding, Puglisi probably doesn't have an interest in seeing his customer as like a sexual plaything, but rather wants to experiment with how far he can push these BDSM tropes without them feeling gimmicky or sex shoppy. To be honest, I'd wear a chic dog collar-like harness if it was attached to that sheer gown covered in leopard embroidery that is truly a feat. And now for those that don't want the added harness, the gown in and of itself is breathtaking. It's sumptuous, and while being done in such good taste, even though it's almost entirely sheer. Harness or not, it is one of the most powerful looks that we have seen to come out of Milan. And I mean, listen, you don't have to buy the harness. Then a multi-leopard print gown held together via a leather harness and collar is also stunning. And with Ciara wearing it recently, Cavalli is coming back as one of the brands that dominates the red carpet through somewhat controversial beauty. But I mean, like, honestly, I don't even think anybody noticed the collar aspect of it. I think everybody's just like, oh my God, Ciara looks stunning in leopard. And for those that are looking for a non-leoparded version, it does come in black as well. The rest of the collection is more or less all black versions of previous looks like the harness skirt, strapped waist, or leather rose-covered dresses. But without a doubt, Puglisi has found his Cavalli sweet spot, and it's a joy to see this eureka moment. Now, Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons presented a collection they called The Ideology of Prada for fall 2022, and it was a rather fun look through Prada's history. It also wanted to further pad out what the Prada woman has been, and also will be, which for Simons is probably important as he's the newbie on the Prada roster. A few collage skirts open the collection, sometimes paired with large blazers and turtlenecks, or just a white tank top with Prada triangle logo. These skirts all seem to follow a similar pattern, with a block of gray wool followed by a shorter panel of crumpled silk, and finished with an often embroidered sheer panel. It's anything but strange to see collaged fabrics like this on a Prada runway, and they do seem to play to the brand's fall 2007 collection, which we'll discuss later. The skirts eventually morphed to dresses, but without the wool and silk panels, which allowed for the short shorts and tank tops underneath to remain exposed. The tank top is rather intriguing, as it's a style that's rather casual, and it seems the brand is pushing the triangle to become a less brash way of targeting the logomania market, as Miuccia has never been one for splashing the brand's name over anything and everything. A set of incredibly strict tailored wool coats definitely seems to be influenced by Raf Simons' menswear tendencies, and each one had an intriguing neckline added. Prada is a brand that's not exactly known for being minimal, at least in the most recent of decades, so to see it take such a sharp stance here is of interest. A slew of large pleated midi skirts followed in somber gray and black, some paired with blazers and other with v-neck sweaters. To be honest, the styles are lovely and give a crispness to the idea of business casual dressing that we haven't seen in quite some time. And I mean, with the going back to the office thing starting to happen, the girls know what they're doing. There's also a push back on the idea of form-fitting in these looks. The skirts gave a 1950s flair, which is reminiscent of Prada's debut ready-to-wear collection back in 1988, where Miuccia found inspiration in her mother and aunt's clothes from the post-war period. There is most definitely a hardness to the styles, but they are anything but unpleasant. A Prada design staple has always been to try and modernize embroidery, and Prada and Simons do it well when on nylon bomber jackets. The bomber jacket is a Raf Simons staple, and he has been using it since his fall 2001 riot Riot collection, which helped cement his career, and when these Prada jackets were given a 3D floral embroidery, it added a lightness to the look, while also centering the Prada ethos of mixing two unlikely aesthetics together. There's an oddness to pairing a light and lovely floral with a jacket historically associated with war and military wear, but it's also incredibly Prada and makes one sort of think, and also, I get maybe it's not for everybody, but that's kind of Prada. We've seen a push to leathers over the past few seasons of Prada as well, which is more than likely due to Simmons' influence, but it also might play to the brand's history as a premier leather goods maker, with 108 years of experience underneath the belt, the leather belt. The nice part about this set of leather coats is that there are styles that are both vintage looking and some that look brand spanking new, which gives customers choices. The green and brown jackets are strangely reminiscent of the leather coats seen during Simmons' Calvin Klein tenure, while the black version has that 1990s appeal from when Prada was such an unstoppable force. There was a navy blue and bright pink set of coats that captured a sharp 1940s silhouette with militaristic shoulders, but online the pieces were attributed to looking like Demna's Balenciaga, which is silly. Not only has Simmons and Prada both been creating for minimum 15 years before Demna's whole Vêtements debut, but Prada has shown military-inspired styles referencing the Nazi influence on Berlin during fall 1994, where strict coats in wools and nylon captured the early 1940s feeling. I also should probably say that this collection is not at all a reference to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This was designed and produced far before that, at least by, I would say, 2 or 3 months. I understand, but I don't think that's what we're going for here. The coats create this strict minimalism, which again can be found in Prada collections throughout the 1990s, and therefore is no different than the references to past motifs or prints, which we saw in the following section. 1960s and 1970s inspired graphics, first seen during fall 1996, made a comeback in 2 different knit sweaters paired with collaged skirts. The looks are rather maximalist compared to the originals, and the reflective knee-high boots don't really help to tame them by any means. Now, spring 1996, or the Ugly Chic collection, as it's known, gets its shout out on a knit sweater lifting from a square motif and taking a floral motifs color palette of green and purple. Now, a bunch of you are probably saying, like, look, this is horrible. I don't understand any of this. What does this mean? Look at the Ugly Chic collection and then say to yourself, oh, okay, that is Prada. That's it. That's the vibe. You gotta get on the bandwagon or you gotta get off. Now listen, I want to criticize the use of these motifs as there isn't too much reworking of them, but seeing how this is a walk through the Prada ideology, past, present, future, it's kind of hard to do that. Now, lovely tweed coats in yellow and black and white and black herringbone recount the brand's fall 2015 collection, but added the out-of-the-ordinary fur placement of the brand's fall 2006 collection as well. While there is again this harsh tailoring, the furred biceps add a pinch of whimsy. Brightly colored shearling piped biceps and the bottom of wool coats an homage to the wacky shearlings of the brand's fall 2007 collection, and while the colored shearling again is avant, the black on black version feels that it should be taken rather seriously. Now, more leathers appear, this time in shearling bomber jackets all piped with shearling. Only one version with a peach shearling trim felt extravagant, while the other 2 actually could be a commercial smash. A nylon bomber that followed in blue made a case for a feathered version, while a slick of black looks more or less finished off the collection. Feathered and furred biceps decorated dresses and wool coats, while dresses and skirt sets in black crepe were semi-draped and created their folds against what looked like stiff girdles of some sort starting right below the bust. Now, these seem particularly Prada and are actually some of the more interesting pieces in the collection from a developmental point. Finally, a tank top and collage skirt on Hunter Schafer closed the collection out and seemed like a part of the Prada plan to entice eyes through celebrity castings, which we saw during the menswear collection of the same season. All in all, Prada this season wasn't bad. It intended to reference itself and did so rather well. But eventually Simmons and Prada will have to push themselves into a direction that showcases the new era of Prada, one that is sharp, witty, and doesn't compromise, which might be difficult when you have 2 large entities designing together, one with their name on the door, and the other still stepping into the brand's world. Now let's discuss Bottega Veneta. Now, the shocking departure of Daniel Lee from Bottega Veneta was something very few in fashion saw coming. The British designer managed to bring Bottega Veneta into the spotlight and design a host of leather goods that opened a window full of fresh air to fight the brand's rather stuffy and conservative image. But as rumors flew about Lee's leaving, Matthew Blasey was appointed as creative director, getting a promotion from his design director title. The fall 2022 Bottega collection was his debut and was quiet and steady, which was more than likely what he needed to do to showcase Bottega could survive the storm left in Lee's wake. He began the collection with a cotton ribbed tank top and what appeared to be blue jeans, but that's when Matthew Blasey shines. His demure but incredible attention to detail is really what puts him at the tip top of his game. Showing denim as the first look for an Italian luxury leather goods brand would seem a little bit trite, no? But Blasey delivered faux denim, as the pants were actually leather treated to look exactly like denim, and it was brilliant. The piece more than likely will go down in history, and one can only really tell that it's leather when one touches it. I haven't, but I presume one can tell. Or from the way it creases when the model walks. Now, Bottega Veneta has always been a subtle brand, and this was the perfect way for Blasey to start his tenure. A large white leather trench coat followed and seemed to push an idea of making wardrobe staples in leather. The accessories, an always important part of the brand's selling power, came in matching white leather, which was the new Calamero bag, which is a non-sewn, fully woven bag playing to the history of the Intreccio leather weave. Now, what followed were two more leather styles, one a cocktail dress, other a burgundy jumpsuit, both with leather tassels at their straps. Again, wardrobe staples remade in leather as easy sells to clients, one would hope. And between being able to change leather colors and the tassels that continue creating intriguing texture with the textile, the looks makes sense. A few navy blue wool looks then followed. The first a simple button-down and baggy trouser, again, easy sells. And a cocktail dress with exaggerated and puff straps was rather dynamic even though it was so simple in essence. A navy wool coat seemed normal enough from the front, but when you could see from the side its Cristobal Balenciaga-esque slope, it could spur clients to see it as not just another wool coat, but it's not. What followed was a pale yellow version of the suit done in a wool melange, which gives it the lighter look, and the platform Mary Jane seen with it only emphasized this slope shape throughout its own heel. Another miraculous shoe was a furry clog in bright orange, while bags like a leather pillow-like clutch and a fish-shaped handle that was holding an Intreccio woven pouch, they were intriguing. For those that felt like the collection was rather subdued, I understand the feeling, but these creative spurts give me hope. Creating textured leather is a Bottega signature, and for each creative director, it's their job to push the craft of leatherwork to new artistic heights. I don't know if that's actually true, I just kind of made that up, but sounds about right. And it seems Blasey is already working on that. Fringe underskirts were seen on both skirts and gowns, and the skirts were paired with simple sweaters, which were made of what is no doubtably very luxurious alpaca fleece. These midi dresses, though on their own, were rather lovely, as they gave the impression of being gowns only through the sheer drama of the fringe underskirts, while their straps, being knotted, pay homage to the handle design of the Jody bag, which was a brilliant way to work accessory codes into garment form, which is hot. I don't believe evening wear is a big category for Bottega Veneta, but I hope that Blasey continues to explore elements of it like this in future collections. Another trompe-l'oeil from Blasey comes in the form of a shirt dress that many would assume is just made of cotton. I am many. And is far too simple to be sent down the runway. But, alas, it's leather. You've been punked. Again, Matthew Blasey has a strong background, from working under Raf Simons at Calvin Klein to Phoebe Philo at Celine, and even at Maison Martin Margiela, where he developed those crystal face masks everybody in fashion went gaga over. With a provenance in the subtle side of luxury fashion, the craftsmanship that goes into this leather shirt dress has as much weight as the over-the-top gowns found amongst the more ostentatious fashion brands. A trio of dresses were rather odd from afar, but when seen up close, one could tell that each was made up of collaged fabric panels in the shape of different animals and/or fungi. The first was a light blue and red dress whose panels were in the shape of a frog, and with its colors it might be referencing the strawberry poison dart frogs, which have similar colors. As for the other two styles, both in the shape of mushrooms, with one being brown and the other navy blue, it's another intriguing way of referencing nature here. I'm unsure if the styles will sell incredibly, but again, there's something intriguing about not just making cocktail dresses with frog or mushroom prints, but rather having them be made up of those things' silhouettes. Furs also made headway on the catwalk, with two coats creating rather bubbly shapes. The first was a black sleeveless coat of lamb fur that could double as a dress and a coat. Not miraculous, but again, not rocking the boat is kind of important here, I think. As for the next coat, it was a shearling with sleeves that created a bubble shape, but it was painted to actually resemble coyote fur and might be a reference to the popularity of coyote fur on the international market. But because it's not actual coyote fur, but rather painted to resemble it, the sense of the unexpected lives on here as well. As for the other fur coat, which is more coat-like than the other two, its blonde coloring is very sweet, and the stone-like pieces that are embedded in it, intriguing enough. Skirts made in the brand signature Interreccio weave came in mini and pencil styles, which only further to prove that texture is synonymous with the ready-to-wear of the brand, and that housecoats are not at all off the table, nor should they have ever been. The collection finished out with a few different sequin dresses. The first two we'll discuss came in purple and yellow. The dresses are sheer and sequined on top of jersey, which not only again creates texture, but allows the lace bra and underwear underneath to get some airtime. Both dresses also had what looked like lemons made from embroidery trimming over clear plastic panels, sort of throughout the skirt section, which again refers back to the sense of nature. Where we're going with the nature, I don't know. A green sequin gown was white, but was printed with a green sort of slick and then black polka dots, referencing a cheetah, in my opinion, as it's been labeled a tiger dress, but tigers don't really have spots. I didn't know that before, but I Googled, so the more you know. The finale dress was a sequin linen, full of floral lace, which obviously could have been more dramatic, but again, it's a bit daft to expect that at this point. Although one can always dream, you know what I mean? Listen. To be honest, at the outset, this collection seemed a bit down in the dumps, but as one looked at the fine details, you could see the absolute effervescence of Matthew Blasey shine through. While many might chastise him for quote-unquote regurgitating Lee's aesthetics, one must remember that only one designer takes a bow at the end of a fashion show, not the team, and so we will never truly know who designed what and when. But regardless, and again, like, that's not me throwing any kind of shade about shit that I know I don't, but regardless, Matthew Blasey has only just begun, and he's already reweaving Bottega Veneta before our eyes, so I'm very happy about it. Now, to end out this whole review, let's do another rundown. First up, Blue Marine by Nicola Brognano. It's continuing its Y2K folly, with rib knit dresses beginning the collection and skirt sets trimmed and bosomed with knit flower details. Mini skirts were obviously in abundance, a trend that Brognano most definitely has helped push to the forefront in the past year. And they were cheeky, and I'm not even, referencing asses here. Rib knit minis looked as if they were pleated from afar, and a red vinyl leather style paired with a purple knit sweater was one of the best looks of the collection. That color scheme found itself in large fur coats with low-rise cargo pants and plunging neckline dresses that were belted with garters that attached to the Blue Marine stockings. Brognano proves he is one to keep your eye on, and his look at Y2K is far more nuanced than many will give him credit for. The ruche styles were lovely, with cutouts at the hip to the waist, while a dress dripping in faux pearl strands made an ode to the 1920s, which inspired styles of the 2000s, and more knits came in floor-length cardigan form or doused in sequins. And Brognano's continued use of the butterfly motif, popular with the early 2000s, was seen in pleated tops, which were paired with sarong-style skirts in velvet to close out the show. Brognano has led the luxury fashion Y2K charge, and the industry has jumped on his bandwagon, but I wonder if he will pivot towards something else now that they are on his tail, or will he stay staunch in the style for future collections? Next up, let's talk about Trussardi. Now, Benjamin A. Husby and Serhat Isik were announced as the new creative directors for the Italian brand Trussardi recently, and so I had to do a little bit of research on the brand, because I maybe heard of it, but I thought it was a jewelry brand at first, if I'm being really honest, and that's my fault. It was started in 1911 in Bergamo, which is a city north of Milan, and manufactured leather gloves. By the 1960s, it had begun to open up different product categories to meet a plethora of demands, and by the 1990s was opening stores worldwide. The brand's tapping of the Germany-based designers and founders of GmbH was a smart move, as their menswear has been pushing boundaries and found popularity in celebrity circles. It will also give the duo a chance to work with a plethora of product lines and build their skill set, so everybody wins here. The collection consisted of lots of puffer material, some crudely frayed, and others intricately seamed to create evident waists, which isn't normally seen with the fabric. An exaggerated shoulder and slyly cut fur jacket was of intrigue, while a floor-length wool coat with hoodie captured a far more dramatic but somewhat particularly street-styly sense.
Very street-styly.
Leathers were apparent and necessary when it came to honoring a major house code, with the most historically leaning style being a corset placed over a shortened panier-style cocktail dress. It was fun, but I'd like to see styles like these developed a little bit more. As for the leather gown with the large slit, again, it needs to be refined, and I can appreciate putting a plus-size style down the runway, but it should be a little bit more flattering. The finale floor-length leather coat with intricately seamed torso area would be a great place to start when it comes to the plus-size look that we just talked about, and it was a nice way to close out the show. I expect more to come from this new mixture of styles in the future, but I'm willing to give Husby and Isik time to warm up here at Trussardi. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta rub the gloves together a little bit to get them warm. Let's also discuss Ferrari. Now, Ferrari's fashion brand is an interesting one to see. I'm unsure if the brand really expects to be a leading fashion house in the same way as many others we've discussed here in this video, and I think that that is okay. Now hear me out. In reality, Rocco Iannone is much better off refining the customers that already buy Ferrari merchandise. And I don't mean the cars, I mean the ones that buy the t-shirts and the sneakers and the shorts and the pants and the jeans. Ferrari merchandise is plastered with the brand's text-based logo or the well-known stallion, of which the show invite has a matching necklace. So instead of creating haute couture level gowns or avant-garde styles, why would he not lead the Ferrari customer into the area of not just good taste in cars, but in clothing as well? Iannone, I believe, knows what he needs to do, and this season I think he's working towards that even more than last. From leathery sleeves on utilitarian coats to moto-style pants, he's definitely tapping into racing car wear, and he should. Ferrari, unlike most other fashion houses, can do sports cars and racing styles without it feeling gimmicky or annoying or like just a trendy thing, because, well, that's what the brand is based on. I'm not saying the styles have been made absolutely squeaky clean, but I won't admonish the use of them by any means here. And normally the section of graphic horse motifs on tracksuits and skirt suits would leave a bad taste in my mouth, but I think it would be stupid for Iannone to not play to the fact that Ferrari customers are probably looking to be looked at, and for everyone to associate their clothing with a luxury brand, whether it's a car luxury brand or a fashion luxury brand like Ferrari. And listen, I am all for a subtle luxury, but I don't think bright red sports cars and cashmere sweaters in a dull palette of gray, beige, black, or white seem to fit together so well. I think the ostentatiousness kind of necessary here. The knitwear definitely does need improvement. It's neither really wearable nor appealing. And the slinkier, the sexier, and the more red hot, the better. And if Iannone is trying to court a more conservative customer, think the 1920s and the 1930s, when clothing lengths were longer and less seductive. And this was also the advent of women wearing less rigid and more utilitarian clothing. Think Gabrielle Chanel, think Bonnie Cash, and think the woman who broke boundaries at this time, all in styles that didn't show too much skin. You know what I mean? Like, that's why fashion changed. That sort of 1920s point is women were like, oh, we're gonna play sports and like drive cars, so make us clothes that do that well. The colorful wavy motif was quite blah, even when done in a shearling, although the purple and red version was actually far more exciting. And clingy bandage dresses with the Ferrari logo could be a little bit more exciting, in my humble opinion. The Ferrari quilted puffer styles are also very, very smart, and Iannone should do some that are quite commercial, but give one or two show looks, because Ferrari can more than likely afford it. Again, the Ferrari text logo styles are here, and Iannone's crystallizing of them was smart, as they look quite nice in black with reflective bedazzling. So like, that's kind of the end of this review, and now you might be saying, Luke, what the f***? How can you not drag the shit out of this? Well, dear viewer, firstly, it's Ferrari, not Fendi. I have seen the brand's clientele, and purporting it to be anything but car lovers who need to buy convenient clothing would be a lie. I would be lying. And secondly, I think Rocco Iannone could develop a well-rounded collection that sells well, that has a few hot rod styles that get fashion fans huffing the exhaust fumes. And if he starts to build up a strong accessories business that plays to car aesthetics and Ferrari's detail-oriented history, why couldn't that be a smash hit too? Overall, Iannone seems to be in first gear, but I'm intrigued to see where he shifts the brand's engine to. Then there was Versace. Now, Versace's fall 2022 collection was filled with boning and corsetry, but done in that slinky and sexy way that only Versace can. Whatever the fabric, textile, or silhouette, there was more or less a corset with visible boning making up some component of each look, and there were sweet nods to Versace history embedded throughout as well. Now, silk styles were actually pretty lovely and came in both dress and top form. A yellow gown had a silk fie ribbing that was found in between the boning and on the bust, and recounts the fall 1991 Versace collection dresses. Suiting was also boned, whether it was blazers or pinstripe fabrics usually associated with tailoring in boned crop top form, and houndstooth and denim bone styles were also in attendance, alongside beautiful dégradé plaid skirts and coats. Versace's monogram, dubbed La Greca, also appeared, and it's in reference to the meandering or key patterns that adorned ancient Greek temples, art, or ceramics. It relates back to the border on the brand's Medusa's head symbol, and it was seen in faux fur coats that were luscious and intriguing, and also some sloping sleeve knitwear sets. Tops, skirts, and dresses were dripping in crystal chains and captured a boudoir air, while bone dresses exposed the entire stomach area through sheer panels. The collection snapped back with boned puffer coats, which did a solid job of closing out the collection and showcasing that Versace has been continually pushing itself in a rather intriguing direction. All in all, Donatella has started to really deliver since spring 2021, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down. Next up is Miss Sohi. Now, the London-based brand Miss Sohi has become an exciting display season after season. And for the first time, Sohi Park has displayed her pieces in a presentation format. The collection was inspired by South Korean minhwa art, a type of folk art that was done by anonymous artists starting in the 17th century and is considered the painting of the people. This season, Park recreated minhwa motifs to showcase the beauty of the art form through extravagant embroidery seen on dresses and gowns. A gown made up of a pink silk bustier and red skirt was embroidered with a white motif that resembles the crashing of waves and water, similar to minhwa art styles. If we zoom in, we can even see the little silver beads that recreate water droplets for such intricate detail purposes. The brand's now signature crop top gown style was done in a beautiful red with white and silver embroidery and crystals, creating a bust and asymmetrical skirt overlay which was luscious and didn't feel reductive of the styles seen previously. There were beautifully embroidered ovals turned into both a column gown and then a cape, and I wonder if this was an homage to the scales of fish or dragons in minhwa art as well. Tiger motifs were also seen throughout the collection, one being a stunning white and gold bolero paired with a black mermaid gown with a similar tiger stripe motif. The other was a 1940s sharp-shouldered top paired under a gold silk gown with a dark gray tiger motif embroidery. Not only are the looks visually stunning in their own right, but they pay such beautiful homage to South Korean history. Essentially, South Korea was full of Siberian tigers and were only eliminated in the 1940s. But before this, it said that there was a tiger on almost every mountain top within the Korean peninsula. Minhwa art often depicts the tiger as rather silly or comical because it helped members of the working class fear the animal less for their own benefit. Again, minhwa was a way for the everyday person to see things they might not often see, and it was a form of communication through everyday items. And while Miss Sohi isn't exactly everyday dressing, the idea of bringing this folk art to clothing is incredibly smart. Now, many might wonder how a young brand is able to produce such exquisite embroideries, and well, Miss Sohi's collection has been supported by Dolce & Gabbana. Might cause some shock and horror. D&G's new PR move is to help up-and-coming designers, and they provide their atelier for support, which explains these intricate embroideries. It would be hard for me to scold Park, as it's legitimate support for her brand and a spot on the Milan Fashion Week schedule, which is often hard to come by. Do I think Dolce & Gabbana, though, have good intentions? Maybe, but it's certainly something we will see more of regardless. And from Harris Reed's Met Gala to Miss Sohi's Fall 2022, Dolce & Gabbana has found its way back into fashion, and they put all those critical of them in a very strange bind. And getting back to the big cat situation, a blue silk cocktail dress and matching boots are decorated with leopard spots, some with small crystals that shine. Leopards are another animal that was common in the Korean peninsula throughout the Joseon era, the same time period that minhwa flourished. As for the sleeved stole, it's perfectly lined in leopard spots to make it feel less overwhelming. A pink gown with pink shell-like pieces is reminiscent of styles we saw in spring 2022, but the backpack style gives it a totally different weight, while a red ball gown has a face covering of the same waved, almost hair-like texture. Instead of the lengthy and flowing version though, this headpiece almost recreates wavy hair, but is collaged together to give it that weird, strange, layered, beautiful feeling. We'll finish discussing the collection by looking at two other large ball gowns, one in blue and the other in green. The green gown with black bustier and plunging neckline is decorated with more comical versions of the Minhwa tiger. Their large smiles and big eyes are quite funny and were used to dispel the seriousness of not only the animal in the Joseon era, but also the silhouette in and of itself. As for the blue gown, it's full of sea and land-based materials, from flowers to waves to deer to waterfalls. It mixed landscape and seascape elements of the Minhwa style, and it's an intriguing way of reimagining the traditional works. Overall, Miss Sohee is brilliant. The collection in and of itself was breathtaking. More breathtaking than the majority of the major luxury brands that we've seen. Of course, the Dolce thing is a little bit, but like, if it's gonna give us these things and I can just focus on Miss Sohee, that's fine. Not thank you to Dolce, but like, thank you to Miss Sohee. And now let's talk about Moschino, the last collection we'll discuss. Jeremy Scott's Moschino is always a must-see to believe, and this season's campy collection took inspiration from the items found around grand residences and homes. From velvet curtains to harps to gilded frames, one couldn't help but sing "Be Our Guest" from Disney's The Beauty and the Beast as the models flitted on by. Buttons or button covers on jackets and coats recalled sink faucet handles, dining utensils, and intricate hand mirrors, and Scott even referenced fashion's favorite surrealist, Elsa Schiaparelli. A coat dress and a skirt suit both had faux drawer handles run their length, in what is most definitely an homage to Schiaparelli's bureau drawer suit from the winter 1936-1937 collection, which was also the first time that she ever collaborated with Salvador Dali. Now, Scott takes the drawer style one step further though, when he creates an exaggerated hip cocktail dress with bodacious sort of trims that almost look like gilded foliage that also kind of resembles the legs of a dresser, crafting a full dresser effect here. There was a chandelier embroidery, maybe an homage to Katy Perry's chandelier gown from the 2019 Met Gala, while a leather dress was turned into a door with Moschino post flap. There was a velvet couch cocktail dress and Persian rug-inspired coat with dramatic train too. Black gowns were decorated with gold gilded frame foliages, which resemble a Baroque style, also like maybe recount a little bit of Yves Saint Laurent, I'm not sure. And some even had portraits throughout the sort of, busts and bodices. One skirt set even had a small gilded frame over the bust, which would expose the wearer's bra due to the cutout panels there, making their bust the portrait in that kitschy and cheeky Moschino way. And continuing on this style was a sterling silver serving tray, which molded around the model's breast to create two eggs sunny side up. Other stately items like an intricate tapestry, a biobu, or Japanese folding screen, and a grandfather clock were all turned into dresses too. And who could not love the Moschino phrase styles, one reading "guilt, not guilty," and the other "made in Italy," which both pay homage to Moschino's founder, Franco Moschino's cheeky and funny slogan tees and dresses from the 1980s and the 1990s. The rest of the collection consisted of gowns, some referencing curtains, others a bed headboard, and the best, a large harp train that is just fantastic. Scott's own outfit referencing 2001: A Space Odyssey was just the perfect way to end all of it. Jeremy Scott's Moschino is still full of charm, wit, and splendor that fashion very desperately needs. So that is the end of this Milan Fashion Week review video. I'd love to know all of your thoughts on all of the collections. What did you love? What did you hate? What did you think was I will see you guys when we get to Paris. Again, like it's gonna take time, you know what I mean? Like I haven't even started writing Paris yet, so like give me a little bit. It will come, don't worry. Listen, I did Milan. But I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and TTYL.